Hi everyone, welcome back on Rising Stars. My name is Roksana, and I want also to mention that Rising Stars is sponsored by Uber Eats MTL. And today we have an actress who's also a martial arts artist, Zihan Cai. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you, Roksana.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
That's an interesting combination, and I think it's when you are an actor and also in martial arts, it's almost like an extra bit that helps you sometimes in your acting career. So I think we're gonna talk about the acting and the martial arts part of you as an artist. But let's start first from the very beginning. Acting, we chatted a bit before, so how did it start? How did you begin the journey? And yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I almost got into this industry by accident. So I've been training in Wushu, a Chinese martial arts, like the one you see in Jet Li movies
Okay.
for about.
I wanted to ask, like,
Yeah.
what is it? Because I'm not aware. I won't even. I can manage to differentiate the Taekwondo probably and the Wushu, but that's it. So that's more like what you can see in which kind of movies?
Like Jet Li movies. So
Okay.
like Chinese martial arts, we compete it almost like gymnastics. So we get a score on 10, and then we have, different kinds of weapons. We have in the score, technique, style, and then difficulty of movement. So that's kind of where it started. And this is the martial art that led me to this whole acting career. So one day, about 5 years ago, one of my friends, asked me to choreograph a fighting set, and he wanted, help with like a little action scene, and I helped. And that's when, I got to know everyone in the industry in Montreal, or in our small group at least, and then started getting roles out of that.
Okay, so it's interesting because very often when you talk to the actors, the story of getting into acting leads back to childhood, or like I when I was a kid, I really loved entertaining people, etc.
Yeah.
In your case, it's different things. So you almost came from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
Do you have the agents? So like when the moment you said that you started booking the roles, did you get the agent, or you're self-represented?
I do have an agent. Her name is Jenny. And actually, that's a funny story too. It also happened by accident. So I do lion dance as well. That's
Lion dance?
when we have like a lion puppet almost, and it's very common to see during Chinese New Year.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so
It's
that
like a big
group,
one, or if it's a dragon thing, also that it's like a puppet that you manage, right?
yeah, so the lion is on you. It's two
okay.
people. The dragon is the one with
Yeah.
10 people.
Okay, that's
So
okay.
yeah, it's kind of like the basics of Kung Fu too, except you're kind of representing this lion. And then our agent also represents two people in that lion dance group. So that's how I got to know her.
Also by accident?
Yeah, also by accident.
I believe that there are no coincidences. So whatever happens in your life, it leads you to something, leads you maybe to the right path.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then the roles that you were booking, are those somehow linked with your main area, which is the martial arts, or it's all the different spectrum of the roles that you started to book, or they're still more focused on the martial arts aspect?
Yeah. So I think one of the bigger things I've done last May was the movie that was shot here. I'll say it's Victory Boulevard.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I think that was a role where, I had to do a lot of martial arts in there. So that's like one of the bigger ones that I was able to be a part of. Otherwise, smaller stunt roles. There was also a movie here called Montréal, Ma Belle, about an older Asian woman, and I doubled her in the car. So yeah,
so
I
was
think
the stunt? That's another stream that you also do, right? The stunts.
Yeah, so it kind of goes around more the martial arts. I get to use it in film, and I think like I realized, I like being in front of the camera. It's a really cool thing to see at the end when we put the choreography together, or like something looks really nice. So I I realized I liked it because of that.
What were you doing? I'm sorry, I'm interested also in the stunts. What were you doing in the stunt? You said that you had to stunt her in the car?
Sure. So in the car, I was the passenger, luckily, so I didn't have to do the driving. But the idea was that the couple were arguing in the car, and then it was a near miss. So we had to like drive, sort of argue in the car, get really heated, and then a truck comes and we like almost miss it. So that's kind of the scene. So it was a lot of like getting mad at the other person, but not moving them too much that they would, like drive off somewhere.
Is it scary? I don't know, like, 'cause when you look at some stunts that are being done in the film, I don't know how the people do it without really injuring themselves. For me, it's a whole different thing. So does it bring your pulse to the higher beat? How do you manage also your nervousness? I mean, it's...
So in that stunt, we have another wonderful coincidence where I very much trusted the person next to me because it was Jason, who also trains Wushu, and I've known him for like a very long time. So I definitely trusted his driving, and like we knew each other like a lot. We also just found out on set that it was
that you were together.
So I trusted his driving. I think like one thing, doing the stunt is to like almost like stay calm and then not like bother them too much, because then the more I panic, the more they'll panic. So I think it was good for that. And the first few times maybe it's like boom boom boom, like okay, there's a little bit of like, okay, we're getting close to the truck, but after we shoot it again and again and
How
again,
many takes you do?
We're like, okay, a lot. I think so that was an overnight shot, and then I think between 4 and dawn, which was around 6, we were just shooting. Yeah.
And was all the time the same scene, just different angles?
Yeah, and like different takes.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, that's...
Or maybe, they shot it like a little bit from above at one point, or like there was a camera attached to the car. So different angles.
That's a different level of also, I guess, of nervousness. So it's acting, and on top, it's a stressful environment regardless, because it's somewhat dangerous, right? So many takes of doing that. Another question, then go back to the acting per se. Did you take classes? Which classes? Like, I mean, in terms of the acting, did you start doing that since you got on this journey?
I think most of what I've been working on is during the auditions. So one thing I've been grateful for is Jenny, my agent, gives me a lot of time and feedback when we submit things.
Okay.
So when we submit things, she'll walk me through like, okay, like what's the scenario you're imagining? What is like, where do you want to pause? Like, where do you want to go faster? So she gives me a lot of that time, and I'm like learning through doing.
Okay, so that's interesting because and she's your agent, right? So it's not very common when the agents, they spend time on feedback or preparing that. You're lucky indeed. And question also, are you in a union or non-union?
I recently became UDA stagiaire.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's so difficult to get into either actor or UDA in the union just because you need to get a role. And then to get the role, you need usually to have your credit, and then it kind of becomes a vicious circle. What was the role that brought you the UDA stagiaire?
It was the one in the car.
The one in the car?
Yeah.
It was the French production.
Yeah, Montréal, ma belle.
Ma belle, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't get so you also did the Victory Boulevard. That one didn't give you any credits?
No, it didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. I wish it did though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What is your, let's say, when we talk about the stunts or the role, and I find that in your case, the fact that you are also martial arts artist and you also do stunts, it gives a bit of a different layer to the actor as such. What are your preparation? Like, how do you prepare for the role? If it's just a role, let's say, and how do you prepare for the role if it's a role with the stunt, right? Because then it's different one. It's not just only about acting, it's also about executing something which sometimes can be not easy to execute from physical perspective or simply dangerous.
I think having been in martial arts for so long, it might actually be easier for me to put together a fight choreography than to portray a person. But something I think about when preparing for a role with like more lines is like imagining the scenario around the person. Okay, like what's happening, at least in my head, so that I have like some kind of like when I say the line that it's like meaningful and I'm not just blah, like saying it like that. There's something around there. And if there's an element, or how do I prepare for a fight choreography, I think it's mostly just working with the person and the space. So like beats, like how many beats do you want a choreography to be? Like 8 or like 16, that's like a bit longer.
By saying beats, what does it mean? Because I know what like there's the count in a dance. And when we talk about the dance choreography, right? Like there is the beat. So what does it mean, and how does it, and what does it convert when it comes to building a choreography for a fight scene? So what is the beat? And like you say, 8, 16. Let's talk about that a bit. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah. So I think when we make a fight choreography, there's certain, when I say beat, it means like, okay, punching is a beat, blocking is another beat, dodging is another beat. If you throw them, that's like a separate thing. So it's like, how many counts do you want? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then like, there's other elements to think about, like how serious do you want the fight to be? Like what style? Like is one person drunk and they're like having a bottle crashed on them? Or is it more like funny and then like, you know, somebody's like swinging at you and then suddenly you like fall for no reason. So there's like different styles of that and different like limitations, I would say. So can you pick up anything from the surroundings and use it? Or is it more limited? Like one person has a knife, the other person has nothing. So yeah, different things to think about. And something else to think about is where you want to move. So are they like, is the point to like move in a certain direction so that the actor ends up in a certain place and continues the next scene? Or is the point just to show that they're like super strong and they like throw people?
Yeah. It's interesting because the way you talk about, for me, I mean, I was once on the Victory Boulevard, and as I was working there as a background, as an extra, and there was exactly the fight scene. We wish that the one that was being shot, and that was for me the first time to observe this whole, because you usually see those fights on the screen in the final product in the movie, and it looks very believable, and then it was interesting to observe it from the other side, and then all the like how they do the fake blood, how like, so when the actors are doing that fight scene, when you create the choreography, how can they still kind of punch each other without punching too much, but how can you make it still believable? Because we were sitting and observing that, and it really, even from that side, it looked very believable. But then I'm always thinking, okay, like how you can, like you still punch, and that it's the audience will believe it, but then you don't really kill your scene partner, because you can't fight for real, but you can't really completely fake it. So how is this thing working? How to replicate it? How to do that?
Yeah, so this is where I learned a lot of techniques from my friends that do fight scenes and stunts. So there's a lot of like going for a punch very kind of like big or wide in the beginning, so the other person sees it coming. And the part that makes it look fast is pulling back. So like if there's a face punch, one person will like move their face with it so that it looks like it hit them. And of course you would put the camera at an angle where it looks like it actually hit, and not like this where you see that it's a gap there. So that's one way someone can do something. The other, let's say for kicks, I think you can tap somebody, like touch them, but not actually kick them. So there's a lot of like control as to like, flicking, but coming back right away. So it looks fast, but you don't actually hit them. And in certain other scenarios where people are thrown on the floor, they're able to wear pads under their clothing, depending on, if it's longer sleeve especially, they can have like pads so that you can kind of really throw them, but it won't hurt too much.
Hurt them.
Yeah, so it's a mixture of like the person's action, the other person's reaction, and then wearing, protection.
Special. Okay, what was the most interesting scene or project that you did? It can be either in stunt or in martial arts. Something that you would say like, oh wow, that was an experience. If you had any already, or maybe what's your dream role or dream movie that you would want to play in, to have a role in?
I think that I'll go answer your question first. I think it was very cool to be part of Victory Boulevard because we shot a lot of scenes like without much break. So it was cool to like see like everything going on, and then be part of like a large production, with known stars. That's not something I had experience with before. So it was very interesting to see that. And I think like one, big takeaway from it too was that there were so many elements, and we each knew like how to use different weapons, so they would like put us in different places and we would do different things. I really liked that aspect, and my dream role would have been in that movie, as like a side character or maybe like a supporting role in that. I think that would be super cool, or some kind of like Marvel superhero type of thing. Yeah, like really like action movies.
Okay. Another question. Do you have, eventually you're an experienced martial arts and artist, and do you have the thing when you watch, let's say, the action movies and you see the fight scene, like do you go like, oh, like this is wrong, this was not done right, like do you have that like criticism towards the scenes when do you analyze them from fighting perspective, or you just watch? Because me, I'll give you an example. I'm relatively also newbie in the industry, similar to you. You started in 2020, I started in 2021. And when I started from acting perspective, I realized that the way I'm watching movies now, it changed because I observe it and analyze it from the angle perspective, from the acting perspective, from like, oh, that was a great idea of a director to do it this way, to film this. So now I do have it. So it's not that I'm not enjoying, but I have another layer of analyzing. Do you have the same thing when you're watching the fight scenes or the fight scenes in the movies?
I think I do now, but in the same sense, I understand it's an action movie and all the fight scenes would never happen in real life, of course, because, you know, when can one person go against 10 people and beat all
Never
of them?
happens?
But it looks cool. What I do analyze or I see now is like all the stunt work people put in. So when they get thrown like boom on the floor, I'm like, wow, that was a nice one. It looked very real. And I like to see too what people can come up with, because of course in real life, I don't think you would ever break a table by landing on it or smash through the window.
Because that's what you see all the time in the movies. Exactly. One person against 10 and the person usually wins in most of the cases. Or like you get beaten and like you crash, the person crashes the table. So no, this is all not how it happens in real life.
I think no, but I still appreciate it. I'm like, wow, that was well done. It looked realistic. And one thing that recently too I was able to get was the firearms safety license.
Okay.
So we learned how to like, for acting purposes, like load and clean different types of guns, but not shoot them. But that's one thing that I also see in movies, where I'm like, you know, how does that person have that many bullets? I have no idea. It's been like
10 minutes.
So I do see those moments now, but I still appreciate it as a whole.
So it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't take away from enjoying the movie. It doesn't take over the whole analysis of the. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So you do also know how right now to operate the gun, right? So that technically an extra layer that you can add to your resume as an actor, right? So it's martial arts, there's stunts, and then the how did you call it?
Like a firearms certification. Yeah. So making it look realistic. Yeah, it's helpful. Yeah, and I think, you know, it's good to have like different kinds of like know how to use different kinds of weapons for movies.
But then then going back to the martial arts and like it's Wushu, right? That you do, that special Chinese type of the martial arts. You started learning it as a kid, right? Or it was at the later age? Did you start it just because it was like a sport? Like sometimes the kids, they go do taekwondo, they go do different things. It was purely in the beginning just like a sport that you enjoyed as a kid or as a teenager?
So that's also a story. I would say I did not start early in comparison to other people. So when I started, I was already like 17, 18. Okay. So I would consider that to be late because most people in this sport start when they're like 7 or 8. So I had to like catch up. And then even so, I think I've been doing like decently in competition. I still have the goal of like making it on the national team. So that's going to be a competition this year. We'll see what happens.
Good luck.
Thank you.
They say break the leg in acting. I don't know, but in all the languages, good luck.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think, you know, it's just because somebody started late doesn't mean that like we can't put in a lot of effort and still make it. So
yeah, it's all about determination and being on it.
Still possible. Yeah.
Exactly. Then do you so that's a sport itself, right? But then in order, a lot of people that go into sports, right? Not a lot of people after go into choreography in the scene fights, right? So how did you get that experience or that knowledge? Because knowing how to fight is one thing, but to your point, knowing how to choreograph a scene, first of all, to choreograph meaning to put a certain movements like one after another so that it looks believable, and then also knowing how to do it not to kill eventually your scene partner. Is it something that you learned somewhere, you went to learn it, or it was something that you learned by watching? How did that transition happen from being a person who is into the sports to a person who is using that sport for technically becoming an artist and choreographing the fight scenes?
Yeah, sure. So in Wushu, we have something called 对练, which is a choreographed fight between two people.
So you were taught to do that. That's part of the educational course?
Yeah, so I would say Wushu is done for like visual purposes. Like it's mostly like a presentation or a routine of your skills rather than actual fighting.
Okay.
However, like most of the movements are inspired from fighting. So when we make the scene in a choreography, usually I think about like, okay, like who throws the first punch or kick, and then what would I do from there? So working with the partner, it's like, okay, they did something here. What would be my natural reaction to do next? And then we go from there, and that's how we start a choreography. It's basically almost like just fighting each other and then thinking about what would I do next? Oh, you have an opening here, boom, rib punch. And then like, okay, now I'm in. What would you do next? Would you throw the person? Like maybe they would. Yeah. So that would be like the train of thought. Like what would I do next in an actual fight?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's for me when it comes to purely acting, I always when I read the script, I would think first how would naturally in real life you would react, you would do, and eventually there are different people, different way of reacting, but still there's some commonality. So it's a bit similar when it comes, if I understand correctly, to the choreography in the fight, right? So like, okay, the person is open here, I'm gonna punch him, and I don't know, in the side or something like that.
Yeah. So I think it's just like thinking about too, where do you want to end up? It's like, okay, does one person gets injured in this story, or they run away, or like, thinking a little bit about where you want to end up in the middle is also helpful, so that I don't know, one person isn't getting all the injuries when they're not supposed to be.
Question. So as the way I see it is that yes, you do have that special skill that you can use to bring your acting career to a certain level. But do you see yourself as someone who is, because you can not only be acting in the scenes, you can be someone, I would assume there are stunt coordinators on the set always, if it's an action movie, or there are people who do the scene fight choreography for the big productions. So would you see yourself more pursuing the career as actor who does stunts and who is able to do the martial arts, or you see yourself more as someone at one point of time as an evolution who will be building those fight choreographies for the productions? I mean, you're relatively early still in your career because you're just starting, but I'm just curious if you already kind of defined that path, or you're open to all the opportunities, or you already know, okay, like that's what I want to be in the future.
I think I'm open to a lot of things, including voice acting. I'm open to that too.
Montreal is a good place.
I'm into that. So I think like being, like in front of the camera, could be nice. I also do observe what stunt coordinators do as well. Like there's a lot of things that they know of that I'm still learning, you know, like pulling someone on a rig, like when in the movie they're like flying somewhere, like pulling somebody. There's like, they have to like explode the glass for them. There's like all different kinds of things, like I don't know, throwing somebody and then sticking a mattress under them when they land. So like there's so many different kinds of stunt coordinating, even like setting someone on fire that I don't know how to do yet, but I'm still observing. So I think that could be something of interest. And especially, you know, I notice many stunt coordinators are men, and I think that could be you know, a place where there's like a little bit of like balance or equity in the future.
Yeah, are there like learning the stunts? Because that's a whole different thing. Is it something that you can go and study as a discipline, learn any programs, or like how do people learn to do the stunts? How do people become the stunt actors?
Yeah, so there are places to learn. I think in the past there has been someone teaching in Montreal. I know some days at Acton, it's a parkour gym all the way out in Assomption. They'll train like being on a pulley. Like, yeah. And then there's camps that people do for
stunts specifically.
Like France and Beijing. Yeah, I know people that have gone to those. Yeah. So there's like...
Did they come back from those?
Yeah, of course. They come back, they have a great time. And then it's a more like intensive program.
But when it comes to stunts, when the person decides, okay, like I love the risk, I like the adrenaline. I don't even know what brings the people into that stream to become a stunt actor. Do you need always to be a multi-dimensional stunt actor, or, I mean, whoever goes that direction, like they can do drive a car in a car crash, they can I don't know, get exploded, they can get hanged, or there are some times when people say, okay, no, I'm just going to be the one who gets exploded. So that's the only type of stunt that I know. Or when you go for those workshops, or when you go that direction, you need really to be a full spectrum kind of stunt actor. How does it work?
So I think it's always better to know more things. So a lot of stunt actors I meet, they'll learn all different types of martial arts. They'll learn like stick fighting, they'll learn capoeira, they'll learn, you know, like taekwondo, just so that if they're ever selected for a role, they know how to do all these kinds of things. I even know some that learned equestrian, like riding a horse, because there's stunts where you fall off a horse. Yeah, so always like knowing more things is better. But I guess it's good to have a specialty too, especially like driving. There's not a lot of like women, I guess, who know how to like you know, like drift or drive or do certain things. So that's very in demand. So I think like that could be something good to learn.
There are not a lot of women overall in stunts, right? It's mostly men.
I think it depends on the situation. Yeah, I think there's more men, but it could also be that in the movie, stunts are written for men. So it'll like oftentimes be like, if the actor is the main hero or somebody's the hero, like a bunch of guys that assault him or whatever, and then he beats up all of them and then like wins the fight. So that's a lot of, I guess, male stunts. Or if they're like pretending to be someone in the army, I think it's just like written that way too. So it's like a cycle of like,
you're right,
guys, and then it's written that way, and then
there's not that many, to your point, female roles that are written in a way that, yeah, if it's an action movie, mostly the guy is the hero, so all the stunts go to him. So question then for you, how did you decide, like what did influence your decision on becoming, because then whoever's doing the stunts, to your point, you just mentioned that it's important to do also, they try to do all the different types of the martial arts to be like a full-fledged actor. Stunts, and this is why I'm asking, because for me it's scary, like you kind of still risking your life when you're doing a stunt, right?
A little.
I guess it depends also on the type of stunt, but how did you come up with that thought that, okay, like doing martial arts, it's one thing, but then also adding stunts on top of it? How did you come up with that? Okay, like that's what I want to also to pursue. Do you like adrenaline?
I think that it's nice to have like something come out of the martial arts that I've been doing. So it's like one thing to go to competitions and like, you know, like win. And another thing to, you know, like have it in a movie and do something cool and it stays there as like a record of like something you've done with the martial art. I think that's the cool part. Yeah.
What's next for you? Do you have any projects coming in? And then if we talk about what's next for you, any long-term plans as the martial arts / stunt actor?
I think what's next for me is I'm gonna keep auditioning for roles. There's one that's a voice acting role that I wanted to do, like somebody in a video game, you know? And I think that could be a good fit because I can imagine them fighting.
Yeah.
And I think like this year, my focus is on making it on the national team for Wushu.
Okay, so that's because that's the competition, right?
That's the competition. That's the big one. And what I, you know, where I see this going could be, you know, it would be towards like that acting sort of like martial arts role in a movie. Yeah.
And for the voice acting, how much you bring of that? So like when you're auditioning, do you still tend to fall for the roles that are somehow linked with fights, or you're auditioning when it comes to the voice acting? Or you go for all the different roles that are available, or you have a bit of a preference?
I would go for all the different types of roles. I think it's easier to do the voice if you kind of like have somebody in mind. But yeah, I think overall, like I'm open to different kinds of roles. And I think when I auditioned with Yanis the first time, it was more for acting, but it was like a horror skit. So, you know, I'm open to all kinds of things and not just, you know, action and fighting.
Any advice that you would give to a person who, let's say, does know how to do the martial arts and like wants, for example, to pursue this path as an acting career, or also like who does stunts? Any advices or tips or tricks that you would give that person?
Yeah, I would say, you know, in the beginning, just starting out, like have fun, meet as many people as possible. And the way it came to me, it was, you know, one day someone thought of me and then like put me on the paper. So I think that would be the advice, to like get to know people, get to know different kinds of martial arts, and yeah, just widen the network.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm wishing you, first of all the best to get your big role and to get more into the voice acting, because Montreal is definitely, it's the right place. There's a lot of opportunities there. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I hope you get to book your role too, your dream role.
We keep on, auditioning, and hoping that at one point of time, if you never do anything, nothing's gonna happen, right? So
yeah, it's better to do it and you fail or you don't get it and then you try again.
And try again. Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching us. I hope you enjoyed the episode. A completely different also story from pure acting to discussing more like the stunts and the martial arts and this whole component, which is really like an important additional skill. If you have it, bring it into your resume for sure. And looking forward to see you on the next episode.